Jaya Twang Devi Chamunde Jaya Bhuta Paharini Jaya Sarvagate Devi Kalaratri Namostute Om Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durga Shiva Kshama Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Ma. So, gang, we're having a very exciting week because this Friday we're going to be celebrating Holi. It's a very special festival and it's quite famous actually. So, if you've seen any like Bollywood movies or even if you've seen any Hollywood movies, you've probably seen something Holi related because it literally is a very colorful festival. Like all festivals in India, this one especially though, it's a very colorful festival because it's when everyone goes out in the street and just pelts each other with colored powders, powdered dyes, you know. So it's like it's the quintessential Bollywood movie scene where you go outside and then it's everyone is so jubilant and they're all on the street and it's a very romantic sort of setup. So usually in the Bollywood movie, it's like a guy will be chasing a girl and the girl will hide behind. In that heteronormative Bollywood movie context, you know, she'll hide behind it and she'll play the role of the coquette because, of course, she's supposed to embody Maya or Prakriti, who gives both Bhoga and Apavarga. That's the beauty of these Bollywood films, actually. They're rooted in a lot of Sankhya and rooted in a lot of Vaishnava, Gaudiya devotionalism. So she typically plays the role of Prakriti, and who in the Sankhyan system, as you know, is like the confoundress. But not in the Vedantic sense. In the Vedantic sense, Maya doesn't exist. Maya, she's the confoundress who has no being in and of herself. She's merely ignorance, and when she disappears, you realize that she was never there at all. So much so that you can't even call her a she; you have to call her it. Although the word Maya has it's a feminine noun, so it has a connotation of this woman, but she doesn't exist. And Brahman is neither male either, because in that sense, Brahman, not Brahma, but Brahman is neuter. So here, Brahman is an it. It's pure being. And that being is not personal. It's an impersonal, pure non-dual consciousness. And so Maya is not his Shakti in the way that Shakti is Shiva's Shakti, like that. So it's a Sankhyan metaphysics and a devotional metaphysics that these Bollywood movies tend to depict. So she is Prakriti, who is real. Except in the non-tantric Sankhyan world, like it's called Nir Ishvara Sankhyan system, this Prakriti is inert. So again, she's not really a she either, although the noun, the Prakriti word is a feminine noun. But in the Tantric world, it's very much a she, and she's Saguna Brahman, the goddess who creates, preserves, and destroys. But most importantly, this goddess who manifests the magical display of phenomena is playful, and she likes to hide herself, her true essence, from the onlooker. So Shiva, Purusha, he's gazing at this magical display of phenomena and she hides herself from him. And so in the Bollywood movie, you'll usually see like she's hiding behind a clothesline, and there'll be a sari hanging from the clothesline, and she'll go and hide behind there, and then he'll pull the sari back and she'll giggle and then run, and then he'll chase her and he'll lose her in the crowd, like that. So it's a metaphor for the spiritual quest. She is his essence nature. As Abhinavagupta beautifully points out, Shiva swabhavaha iti shaktihi. Shakti is the essence of Shiva. So as long as she's hiding, he's lost his true essential nature. So he's looking and looking and looking. And all of this is set in the colorful Holi celebration where they're all throwing this dust at one another. So it's an exciting thing. And what it's celebrating essentially is the love of Krishna and Radha. So that devotional fervor, I think nowhere has reached a fever pitch as in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. So there, Krishna, he's an actual human being, and Radha is herself an actual human being, and the two are the embodied experience of Purusha and Prakriti. He is Purushottama, the Supreme Spirit, and he demonstrates, importantly, the attraction that the Supreme Spirit has for the embodied Jiva, Radha. So Radha is, of course, irresistibly drawn to Sri Krishna, and so she leaves everything behind. She's a married woman, and she has a husband, and she has children, and she has a life, but she leaves all of that behind and runs away into the forest to chase this paramour in this heated romantic tryst. So Krishna, of course, is irresistibly attractive to Radha, but this is, I think, even more important. Radha is even more attractive to Krishna. So it's almost like as much as we pine for God, the important thing is that God pines for us even more. Radha here is the ideal bhakta. And she's the ultimate self-effacing bhakta because she loves Krishna for Krishna's sake. The reason she's the Uttama Gopi, the supreme Gopi, is because unlike the other gopis, she's not really that interested in getting off. Like the other gopis love Krishna, but they love Krishna because Krishna is hot. He's quite bad, and so they love him. Radha loves Krishna in this totally non-transactional, self-effacing way. She loves Krishna as a moth would love a fire. She loves Krishna because it is her nature to love, and it's because it's his nature to be loved. When Yudhishthira was asked why he loves God, even after having suffered so many calamities, he says, "Look at the Himalayas. I love them. They don't give me anything. I expect nothing from them. They're merely beautiful. It is my nature to love the beautiful, and it's their nature to be beautiful. Hence, I love the Himalayas. In that same way, I love God." That was Yudhishthira's answer to Draupadi when asked why he loved a god that seemed to be so capricious. It doesn't matter if Kali kills me. She's Kali, and she's beautiful, and I will love her all the same. So many people have this problem. They're like, I can only love God if. And the gopis, to some extent, they're ecstatic lovers, but they each harbor a little bit of selfishness, at least to taste the bliss of God. Not Radha, though. She doesn't even care whether or not she gets to taste sugar. She's rushing headlong into the ocean of sugar. So she's the supreme gopi, the Uttama gopi. And as such, Krishna is, of course, irresistibly attracted to her. So as much as we want God, oh, how much God must want us. So we say in the beginning, the devotee is like the bee, and God is the lotus. And Krishna is that dark blue lotus, Sham they call him, whose skin is black, and who is full of honey, and the bee is maddeningly pursuing that honeysuckle lotus. But then after a while, when bhakti grows in the heart of the devotee, when the devotee attains prema or mahabhava, that supreme state of ecstatic love which Radha embodied, then the devotee becomes the lotus and God becomes the bee. It's like flipping the script. And then God can't resist the devotee. So the two of them, they're like this wonderful polarity of wanting one and the one wanting the other. So the devotee's love for God and the God's love for the devotee, that's what's being celebrated on the day of Holi. And you know, the beauty of this relationship is that it's varied. It's not this like static relationship of love. It's full of human ups and downs. There are moments when Radha is pissed at Sri Krishna and she runs away. And Krishna freaks out and tries to find her. And there are moments when Sri Krishna disappears from Radha just for fun. And Radha is crying and weeping. And so many of the Vaishnava songs about this love are songs of grief. Radha can't find Krishna. And she's fainting on the side of a river. And she's like, I'm so thirsty. Though I sit by the side of the river, I can't slake my thirst. And she's like mad. She looks at the vines and she's like, oh, look, the vines are caressing the tree the way I would be caressing my beloved Krishna. Oh, this reminds me of Krishna. I can't bear it. You know, that's the flavor of the song. A loss, this tragic loss. And when we read of Meera, we see that she really embodied that Radha Rani spirit of pining after God and almost enjoying the pang of separation as much as the bliss of union. That's another thing that we get from Radha Rani. This exquisite flavor of being separated from the thing that you love most. That's only possible when you have that kind of love. And to be able to love that separation itself is Radha Rani's superpower. You know, so she loves, and she loves to be united with that which she loves. But equally she loves being separated from it. That's the play, the lila. And so this emotion, it's a very special emotion. It's called viraha. I don't think there's even a word in the English language that can come close to what viraha means. And you know, it's like how there's like linguistic determinism. Many people say there are words that express emotions that unless you have the word for, you will never feel. For instance, there's a Lithuanian word I learned about. It's litost. I don't know what the feeling is because I'm not Lithuanian, but I heard it described in this way. Litost is the experience of a dog's grief after a war when its owner has died. So you have to imagine a dog is walking around the battlefield looking for its owner, but the owner is dead. That's litost. And I think there's that movie, Hachiko. You know, there's a Japanese movie about a dog who loves its owner, and then the owner actually tragically dies, and the dog every single day like waits at the train station for the owner. I think there was an American remake or something. So I imagine Hachiko probably experiences litost, the pain that only a dog can feel when its master is gone. It's a wonderful word. And there are words like ijiroshi, a Japanese word that describes the feeling of joy when your friend succeeds. And the opposite word in German, Schadenfreude, which means the joy of seeing your enemies suffer. I once saw a cat meme, and it's like a little cat praying, and the cat is saying like, oh God, you don't have to make me skinny, but please make all my friends fat, or something like that. Like, what? It's a very 2000s, 90s meme. Not very PC. But I guess the joy of just, I was like, that's a unique thing, the joy of seeing your friends suffer. not your enemies. Anyway, so there are all these like specific emotions that we don't even know we have until we have words for. Viraha is one such word. It describes a specific emotion. It's very hard to describe, but yet when it's described, it has a universal appeal, which is startling. The fact that we can all relate to it says something about who we really are. The fact that the story of Krishna and Radha appeals to us probably means that it's universal and essential. It's not this rarefied thing that only Krishna and Radha have experienced. It's something that they have modeled for us that is actually the essential nature of every soul. Everybody is a bhakta. That's the essential nature of the soul. It pines after God and God pines after it. That eternal relation of love and beloved is always there. And so that's why these things really appeal to us. So the word viraha, it means the joy, or rather, actually, it means the pain of separation from God, which itself is a kind of joy. So Tulsidas, the great poet who composed the Charitmanas, the Ramayana in a very poetic way, who also composed the Hanuman Chalisa, it's one of his most famous works. He lived in Varanasi actually. I went to his house, very beautiful. And we saw the Hanuman that he allegedly worshipped, and the whole place was just, my God. So anyway, Tulsidas, he said that one tear cried in the name of Viraha is sweeter than all the joys of the world combined. So God is so sweet that even the grief that is caused by God, what to say of the joy that is caused by God, but even the grief that is caused by God is better than all the combined joys of the world. The joy of birthing your first child, the joy of winning a Grammy or an Oscar, the joy of whatever it is, the joy of an orgasm, the joy of chocolate cake, the joy of sun on your face, look, everything, every possible joy that you've ever had in the world, it could never compare to the grief of being separated from God. It's a remarkable thing. And notice, the only way we can feel that grief is if A, we know that God exists for sure, and or B, we've experienced God and then somehow become parted from God. So that's the precondition of that grief. So anyway, it's a very high state. And Sri Ramakrishna once said to Swami Vivekananda, they said, everyone's an atheist. Why? Because even those who profess to believe in God don't actually. Because if they did, they wouldn't behave in this way. Sri Ramakrishna said, suppose you're a thief and in the next room, you know for a fact there's untold riches. What would be your state? And Swamiji said, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd try all night, I would try to get at the riches. Sri Ramakrishna said, exactly. Once you know that God exists, the surety and the conviction of God's presence in the world changes your life. Because if God does exist, nothing else matters. And if God doesn't exist, nothing else matters. So once you realize you are a thief, once you realize that there's gold next door, you'll spend all night, your whole life actually trying to bore a hole through the wall so you can get to the goal. Imagine that sleeplessness, that restlessness, that grief of the thief trying to get to the gold. That's Radha Rani's love. So anyway, that's what we're celebrating on Holi. We're celebrating not just God, but the exquisite play of being separate from God, of being until God hides the gold in your own pocket. That's I guess what you discover is that you are one with Krishna all along, and yet the joy of forgetting that, the viraha of forgetting that, perpetuates the play. That's the thing. So Krishna and Radha, they're eternally one, and yet they're able to be eternally separate. That elusive power that causes there to be a feeling of separation is exquisite. And that's what we're celebrating. That's why in the Bollywood movie, when the man is chasing the woman, and actually the two of them, they switch roles at times also throughout the movie. But especially in this scene, it's capturing Krishna and Radha actually. So the Bollywood movie, the archetypical story upon which I think pretty much every Bollywood movie is based, is the Ramayana slash the Bhagavata. So it's Rama and Sita. Obviously, there's some Ravana figure who steals Sita away, and Rama must go and rescue Sita, that typical myth. But also importantly, the Krishna Radha love. And so all human love is a metaphor for that divine love. And the divine love in the episode of Radha and Krishna is expressed in the sweetest of all loves, the love of romance, of the heated romance of the spirit and matter, like that. So, okay, that's what we're celebrating. It's called Holi. And on that day, everyone goes out and throws colors at one another. And I think the reason why there are so many different colors is because we're celebrating how diverse and rich love can be between the devotee and God. Partly because God has so many forms. So Krishna can appear in all these different forms, or God rather, the one non-dual pure consciousness appears as Kali now as Krishna, now as Shiva. Just this morning, someone was sending me a very agitated text, and they're like, "I'm so worried. What if Kali gets jealous if I worship this other deity?" I'm like, Hare, there's only one God. And sometimes we lose sight of that in traditions where God is presented in 33 million ways. That's the claim. There are 33 million deities in the Hindu pantheon. 33 different ways to fall in love, if you will. 33 million different ways to fall in love. And the idea is that there's one being, and there's so many different experiences that one can have of that being. So people often ask, why was Sri Ramakrishna not yet satisfied after he experienced Kali? Why did he have to become a Muslim and practice Islam? Why did he have to become a Christian? Why did he have to experience Hanuman and Sita and Rama and Shiva? And the answer is that each one of these forms gives us a different understanding of that one reality. So Rama expresses God's righteousness. Sita expresses God's forbearance. Krishna expresses God's attractiveness. Shiva expresses God's purity, austerity, and power. Kali expresses God's maternal affection for the world. I'm using some of Schiffman's phrases here. They're very beautiful. But importantly, each each deity is a unique glance into the experience of God. And so I think Holi, what's important about Holi is when we throw all the colors around, we're reminded of that eternal romance and also the diversity and richness of that romance. But even if you choose a specific form, let's say Kali, the relationship to Kali evolves over the years. One feels like her child, then one feels like her parent, then one feels like a sister, then one feels like her student, and then one feels like her teacher, and then all these bhavas that one can experience, that too is being represented by all the colors. So the colors represent not only all the forms of God, but also all the forms that my love for God can take. And I think finally it represents, importantly, spiritual life and the diversity and richness of the day-to-day struggle of remembering God and the day-to-day joy of that. The day-to-day struggle of forgetting God and the day-to-day joy of remembering God. So I have meditation and I have japa and I have puja. Then I have bhakti practices like kirtan and bhajan and dance. And then we have satsang and we have hatha yoga and all of these things that we do. They're so diverse. So yes, and Kara is here saying, when you begin to see your Ishta within all other forms. Yes, to see all forms as aspects of your Ishta and to see your Ishta in all forms. That's the joy of bhakti. And Holi is demonstrating that. Ultimately, it's all the same powder, yet here it is in different colors. And I think finally we should say this. Holi is a celebration of congregational spirituality. So the best thing about spirituality is something that we can share with others. Not really. Actually, ultimately, it's the quest of the soul's eternal relation to God. It's only between us and God. It gets problematic sometimes when other people are brought in. But that aloneness can be shared, which is remarkable. It's something so private, so intimate, and yet we can come together and be alone together. Or you could say we can be all one together, to use the Indian proclivity for playing with words in this way. Are you alone or just all one? Indians love this. But this idea that we come together to enjoy spirituality congregationally, that's something that Holi celebrates also. So it doesn't even matter whether we know about Krishna or Radha. In other traditions, we say it's the death of Hiranyakashipu. We're celebrating Prahlada and his conquest through Narasingha, how Narasingha destroyed Hiranyakashipu. That's from book 7 of the Bhagavatam. And Krishna is from books 10 and 11 of the Bhagavatam. So scenes from the Bhagavata Purana, one of the great devotional works of literature, are being celebrated. But also, people don't necessarily need to know that. People might not have read the Bhagavatam. They might not know that Holi references Krishna or Radha or Prahlada or Narasingha or Hiranyakashipu. Like, that's not actually important to them. It's just a day where they come out and they feel joy and they celebrate with their community and they get a chance to pelt each other with colored dust, which is so wonderful. Just to have that much color, and then you go out in like white clothes and then or yellow clothes and you come back and you're all splashed with all these different colors. It's exciting and it's fun. That itself is holy. So joy itself, love itself, fun itself is holy. Whether or not we understand why we're celebrating, that we're celebrating is itself holy to generate that positive vibration. So Sri Ramakrishna in one scene, he's on a carriage and they're driving down a street of Calcutta and they go by a grog shop, a tavern, a bar, and people are drunk and rowdy in the bar, and this stirs Ramakrishna's spiritual consciousness. He gets so excited, and he, in a death-defying moment, leans out of the carriage and basically shouts to all the revelers, "Party on, Wayne, party on, Garth." Like he basically tells them, "Have fun, have fun." And just thinking about wine, he's drunk with the bliss of the Divine Mother. You can't, by the way, if you say the word wine in front of Sri Ramakrishna, if you say Karana, you go and whisper in his ear, Karana, he'll go into Samadhi. He doesn't have to drink it anymore. He just has to think of he never did actually. He just has to think of wine and then he goes into Samadhi. He wasn't able to drink wine. Like in the tantric ritual where he was going to consume the sacrament, before he was even able to lift the cup, he went into the bliss of Samadhi. So anyway, that itself is worth celebrating. But I think this is most important. Holi is the Friday, this coming Friday, but it's the day of the full moon. But this full moon is especially important because it celebrates Chaitanya or Gauranga. So this is called Gaur Purnima. So of course, very big in the Gaudiya Vaishnava community, which is founded by Sri Chaitanya. But it's the birthday of a very important saint in India. Perhaps the greatest bhakta that India has ever produced, next to Sri Ramakrishna. So much so that Sri Ramakrishna felt unless you understood Chaitanya, you wouldn't be able to understand him. Sri Ramakrishna almost never told people to read books. Right? He made Swami Vivekananda read the Ashtavakra Gita and other like non-dual books, of course. But he very rarely told people to read. He himself kept a few books, but he himself never really read. He liked to have books read to him, like Shambhu Malik would read the Bible to him, for instance. But he never told people to go and read books, except in this one rare instance. He actually told people to go and read the life of Chaitanya. He would actually recommend that people read up on Chaitanya. Probably because he knew unless you knew something of Chaitanya, and this is a weird kind of suggestion because that book, that particular book that he would recommend people read, is very much not in keeping with Sri Ramakrishna's bhava because it's pretty sectarian, as a lot of things in India tend to be. It's just like, oh, Shiva sucks. Shakti sucks. Like everybody else sucks. Like we're the best. This is the one true religion. And if you go to ISKCON, that's the vibe you'll get. They're like God is just Krishna. And they're not wrong, but they're lower. Vaikuntha, Vishnu lower, like that. And of course, Prabhupada ji's favorite word is bogus. And whenever you get him talking about Vivekananda or Ramakrishna, he'll say bogus, bogus. There are recordings of him going on a walk, and people ask him about Ramakrishna. He'll say bogus. And then he said Vivekananda and Aurobindo, those meat-eating, wine-drinking people, they only appeal to intellectuals, the upper echelons, and those people are all worldly. That's why they always talk about wine. Vivekananda didn't help the issue because way before ISKCON, way before Prabhupada, Vivekananda said the very gods these Vaishnavas worship ate meat and worship Durga. Because Rama, he was a warrior, and Kshatriyas ate meat to be strong. So how can you be vegetarian and be obsessed with like, oh, I'm so sweet, I'm so vegetarian, when the very fellow you worship, Krishna, offered wine to Durga, he himself must have had wine, he was a king, and more importantly, he had to eat meat because he was a warrior like that. So Vivekananda, of course, didn't help this issue because he would make fun of this kitchen religion and puritanical Vaishnavism. But anyway, and Vaishnava sentimentalism, they can become very like shaky because they don't meditate and they don't study. They just anyway. So there's a tension between Shaiva communities, Shakta communities, and within the Vaishnava world also. The people who follow Rama have a tension with people. There's all that stuff. Anyway, so why would Ramakrishna recommend a book that's pretty sectarian? It's a very interesting point, actually. Probably because, as sectarian as it is, you can't ignore the love of Sri Chaitanya. And so, without understanding that love in Sri Chaitanya, it would be kind of difficult actually to understand Ramakrishna, who many people felt to be an equivalent to Sri Chaitanya, except accepting of all religions. And arguably, Sri Chaitanya himself, in the one piece of work that he left with us, he didn't write at all, but he left a few verses. And in one of those verses, he says, many are thy names, and in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needed for chanting thy name. How vast is thy mercy. It's almost as if Chaitanya himself is saying it doesn't matter whether you say Durga or Krishna, it doesn't matter whether you say Shiva or Jesus. What matters is the love that you feel when you say those names. So maybe it's the Gaudiyas who came after Chaitanya, the Goswamis and whatnot, who created this very dogmatic sectarian kind of school. That can be left aside, but the love must not be forgotten. And their emphasis on mantra, how much they love mantra, and the emphasis on celebration and joy, and the idea of God as fun. Like, there's nothing like it. As my friend Chaitanya says, he's a spiritual raver. And she herself was like a hardcore raver. So it takes one to know one. She's like, I really like this tradition because they know how to get down. Right. So anyway, it's Chaitanya's birthday tomorrow, and I want to do a series of lectures on Chaitanya. A special. We always do every year when it's Chaitanya's birthday. We usually do about 3 or 4 lectures on him. This year, I want to focus a little more on Swami Nityananda, who is Chaitanya's like he's the Vivekananda to Chaitanya's Ramakrishna. So I want to talk a little bit about Nityananda, who was a Naga Baba and who was like a kind of tantric. But I also want to talk about some tantric Vaishnava Padatis. I've recently come into possession by Ma's grace of a Gaudiya Vaishnava Padati. It's not of course, ISKCON is one very small subsection of the Gaudiya Vaishnava world. They're like a very Brahmanical, orthodox, sort of atypical group actually within the more ecstatic Gaudiya Vaishnava community. and some of those communities are quite left-handed. It's a rich world, and so it's not just ISKCON, it's a lot. And I found recently a parati, or somebody gave me a parati from that wider Gaudiya Vaishnava world, very tantric parati. So I'm excited to share that with you tomorrow. So in our puja class, we'll go over that parati a little bit, and then in our evening class, our Vijnana Bhairava Tantra class, we'll talk about the Tantra of Chaitanya, if you will. So we'll do two back-to-back lectures on Chaitanya tomorrow, celebrating Chaitanya's birthday. And I just want you to know that Chaitanya's birthday coincides with Holi. So Holi, the festival of colors, is, I think, not just about Krishna and Radha, it's about Chaitanya, who many people believe is the incarnation of both Krishna and Radha. The myth here is that Krishna was jealous of Radha in a sense, because Radha can do something that Krishna can't, which is love God. Krishna is God. So how can, there's a paradox here. God has everything except one thing, the ability to love God. So in order to taste what Radha feels, Krishna incarnates as Krishna and Radha combined. And so Chaitanya is the Shiva Shakti reconciliation, if you will. It's God and God's ability to taste himself embodied in a person. So that's what we're celebrating. It's very tantric, it's very exciting. So tomorrow, Chaitanya's birthday, let us dedicate the whole day to him. And when we go out and we throw dust at each other, let's dedicate that to the greatest lover of God who ever lived. And by thinking of him, I pray that we may catch a glimpse, just a whiff, just a bit of a contact high of what it must be like to love God in that way. So may we all be devotees. Oh, I forgot one more thing. There's a very special holiday that we celebrate as Shaivas. It's called Masan Holy. Some of you might have heard about it, but it's the Shaiva take on Holi. Holi is, of course, a Vaishnava festival. It's rooted in the Bhagavatam. It's rooted in Chaitanya, Krishna, Radha, and whatnot. So the Shaivas, of course, they're so impressed with this kind of devotionalism, this fervor. So they too have their own take on Holi. The word Masan is like a dialect for Smashan, of course. And this Holi is specifically celebrated in Varanasi. So it's like a Kashi kind of culture practice. But everywhere also people do it where there's a strong Shaiva community. So what you do is you go to the cremation ground and you collect lots and lots of ash from the cremation pyres, and then you have Holi, except you don't throw colored powder around, you throw the ash from the funeral pyre. So this is called Masan Holy. We just finished with it. It was celebrated on the Ekadashi. Because I think if we'd chosen actually Holi to do it, it would be sad because then we won't get to enjoy Holi. We also want to enjoy Holi, right? And also, I don't think people will appreciate it. In this wonderful, sweet Vaishnava festival of life and light, I don't think they'd appreciate all the agoris coming naked, covered in ash, and then throwing ash. I think that would start a religious commotion. So we obviously, for obvious reasons, we couldn't do it on Holi. So we chose to do it on the Ekadashi right before Holi. So the 11th day of the waxing moon, right before Holi every year, is called Masan Holy. And it's actually a pretty obscure practice. You have to be in Kashi to kind of know about this. But I wanted to share it with you, those of you who have a more like, Smashan kind of orientation, those of you who are more in the Shiva, Shakti world. Holi, we celebrate Holi. We also go hard. We have Holi, don't worry about it. Only we don't use colored powder, we use the ash from the cremation ground. But the vibe is the same. Like if you're in Kashi and you experience Holi there, the Masan Holi, it's not like it's somehow more goth or anything. I mean, obviously, yeah, they're using cremation ground ash and there's a lot of damarus. So there's damarus, and most of the people look like, they're covered in ash and they have skulls and whatnot. But the actual atmosphere is of devotion and jubilance. So yeah, the funeral, it's in Varanasi, the ash that we use is not necessarily cow dung. Yes, it's that, but it's usually ash of real dead people. So just the other day, for instance, we have this the Smashan Basma here, and we were during Shivaratri, we were covering ourselves in it, and then somebody made a joke. They were like, "I think they started to feel a little nauseous." And then somebody made a joke. They were like, "I think that's because you just swallowed a bit of somebody's uncle." That's like, it was a very funny thought. It was like we're smearing ourselves in the ash and we're like, this is somebody's uncle. We don't know who, but or these are probably lots of different uncles and aunties, and like, who are these people? What would they like? Sometimes I have that thought. I'm like, so what was this person like whose skull we're currently using? What was your day to day like? And sometimes, if you're not careful, they'll tell you. If you acquire an item like this because you buy it from an agori outside a temple in Kamakya, you'll get a dream, and the person will come, and they're not too happy that you're using their skull for your rituals. So anyway, I wanted to let you know about Masan Holi. Anyway, that was my main purpose today. I wanted to tell you about Holi on Friday and talk a little bit about the full moon and Chaitanya and why it's special for us as a community, as a lineage of Ramakrishna, and tell you a little bit what we're going to do tomorrow to celebrate Holi. And yeah, ethically sourced skulls. Yes, get your spouse to pledge you theirs or something. The most romantic thing that a Bhairavi can say to a Bhairava or a Bhairava can say to a Bhairavi, when I die, you can do sadhana on my corpse. Yes, you can do your Shava sadhana with this one. Like that. Anyway, so I just want you to know that there's Holi this week, and I hope that you'll all get a chance to celebrate. Check around, maybe there's some local temples near you, that where they might be celebrating Holi, and see if you can get your hands on some of the dyes. Like if you go to an Indian store, you might be able to find, like in an Indian enclave like that, you might be able to find some of these dyes. Don't ingest them though. Sometimes they might not be totally safe to ingest, but it's safe to throw. And so maybe you can get some friends together and go into a park and have your own holy if there isn't one around. But really one of the best things to do is just feel bliss and devotion and do some kirtan or something like that. So I hope that this inspires you all to celebrate Holi in some way or be part of some holy celebration that might be happening. Holy celebration. And also to let you know about the Masan Holy. So yeah, the Gambari, it's going to be on Friday, March 14th. That's the like official day of Holi. But Thursday, March 13th, which is tomorrow, Thursday is going to be Chaitanya's birthday. So I think it's like somewhere between Thursday and Friday. So if you celebrate on Thursday, it makes sense. If you celebrate on Friday, it makes sense. It's just the full moon of this month. The Falgun Purnima is Chaitanya's birthday, and that's the holy day. The holy day of Holi. Yes, I wish we could all do it like somehow. Oh, and you know what's funny? I think Google does a fun thing too. So if you Google Holi on Google, like they have a little game that you can play where when you click the screen, you throw colors. I think they usually do that every now and then. Google has some holy game. So try Google Holy or something, and then you can play the little holy game. And I hope that, if there are people around, we can get together in our local communities and have a bit of fun and throw some colored dust at each other. Oh my God, is there also Neela Ma? You're telling me there's an eclipse on Friday? There's a lunar eclipse on Friday? Wow, I didn't know that. That's exciting. Max XP weekend, you guys. Nothing a tantrika loves to hear more than there's going to be an eclipse. Except maybe it's a new moon, or it's an eighth moon, or there's a free corpse that you can. I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so yes, so wow, lunar eclipse. We all know that. That's important because whatever sadhana you do during the eclipse is particularly powerful. But there's also some eclipse hygiene things, right? So during the eclipse itself, find out what the time is for the eclipse. During the eclipse, try not to go outside. Don't be directly exposed to the eclipse. Usually, the first instinct that people have when it comes to the eclipse is manifestly adharmic because the first thing they'll try to do is they'll try to go outside and invite all their friends to come outside and then look at the eclipse and then they'll take that they'll take the eclipse dosha. So try not to do that unless you want to. Who cares? You're God. What can harm you? But relatively speaking, if you want to observe the eclipse, one good thing is not to go outside during that time. So stay indoors for the period of the eclipse. Don't consume any food during that period. So it's not a long period. Of course, you can eat before and after. Just don't in that period consume any food. And immediately when the eclipse ends, change clothes, but better yet, take a bath. Take a full bath. Don't wear your clothes again. Take a full bath, launder those clothes, and change your clothes. Those are just like the basic eclipse hygiene things. Don't go on any journeys during the eclipse if you can avoid it. If you do, it's really no big deal. You'll be fine. But it's generally said don't go on any journeys. And during that eclipse time, turn inward and do some nice sadhana. It's a good time for meditation. Okay, cool. So let's get to some Hatha Yoga. Thank you all so much. It was a long spiel, but I just wanted to update you because it's an exciting week and the events and whatnot. Okay, anyway, I'm going to start a new recording for the Hatha Yoga. Jai Ma. Jai Chaitanya. Jai Gaur Nitai. Jai Radhe Shyam.